It was November 2009. A thick, bone-chilling mist rolled off Lake Erie, swallowing the small town of Vermilion, Ohio, at exactly 6:00 a.m. The silence of this tranquil lakeside community was shattered by a frantic 911 call. On the other end of the line was 31-year-old Julene Simco. Through gasps and hysterical sobs, she told the operator the unthinkable. An intruder had broken into their home on the outskirts of town and gunned down her husband, Jeremy Simco, while he lay in their bed. As first responders raced through the fog, the neighborhood appeared lifeless. But when they arrived at the Simco residence, they were met with a series of baffling anomalies. How did death enter this fortified home through a wall of mist? Was this a random home invasion, or a meticulously planned betrayal from within? Today, we unravel the case of Jeremy Simco, a story where high-tech security met cold-blooded deception. Upon arrival, the first thing that struck officers was the silence. In the backyard, 5 large guard dogs, notorious for their aggression towards strangers, sat perfectly still. There was no barking, no snarling. They were as quiet as statues. The front doors were locked tight with zero signs of forced entry. Upstairs, officers found the master bedroom door bolted from the inside with a heavy-duty sliding latch. When Julene finally opened it, police discovered the body of 36-year-old Jeremy Simco on the bed. He had been executed with a point-blank shot to the back of the head, a brutal and clinical end. Julene handed the police her 9mm pistol, claiming she had fired into the dark hallway to scare off the attacker. However, downstairs on the kitchen floor, investigators found a heavy .357 Magnum revolver. The entire scene felt staged. There was no evidence of a struggle, and despite Julene's apparent distress, veteran officers noted she seemed unusually composed for someone who had just survived a violent home invasion. The Simco residence was more than a home. It was a fortress. Jeremy, a successful but controversial tree service owner, kept expensive equipment on site and had suffered thefts in the past. To protect his property, he had installed layers of professional-grade security. First were the dogs, 5 alert guardians on heavy chains, positioned so no one could approach the backyard or windows. Neighbors testified that these dogs would bark at the mere sound of a footstep on the gravel driveway. Second was the advanced electronic system, driveway sensors, designed to trigger a loud alert inside the house the moment a vehicle or person crossed the line. Every door and window had its own sensor, and the entire perimeter was under constant video surveillance. Yet as detectives began their forensic audit, they faced a disturbing reality. On the night of November 18th, not a single security layer had been triggered. Neighbors confirmed the dogs were silent. The driveway sensors recorded no unauthorized entry, and the door alarms never sounded. Crucially, with no signs of a break-in, only 2 possibilities remained. Either the intruder was a ghost who could bypass cameras and dogs, or the killer was someone who possessed the keys, the security codes, and an intimate knowledge of the home's layout. Forensic discrepancies. Downstairs, the robbery looked even more suspicious. A knocked-over chair and an open purse were found, but a large sum of cash inside the purse had been left untouched. Most damning was the .357 Magnum. It was unnaturally clean. The absence of fingerprints or biological evidence on a weapon allegedly dropped during a chaotic struggle was a forensic impossibility. Detectives turned their focus to the alarm panel logs, the digital heartbeat of the house. These records were unalterable. They proved that no exterior door had opened that night, and there was zero motion detected in the hallways until the moment Julene made the 911 call. This directly contradicted her story of an intruder. While staged footprints and DNA-laden gloves were found outside to suggest an external threat, the digital data told a singular truth. The killer was already inside the house. The motive, debt, and control. Jeremy Simco was a man who lived in the shadow of conflict. He ran his business with an iron fist and was known for a volatile temper that earned him many enemies. However, his potential rivals all had airtight alibis. As detectives dug deeper, they found a family in financial ruin. Just days before the murder, the Simcos had been denied a bank loan due to mounting debts. After Jeremy's death, Julene's behavior became telling. She focused entirely on insurance payouts, even claiming she couldn't afford funeral costs while spending the policy money on herself. The deception peaked on November 19th, the day after the murder, when Julene reported a second burglary. She claimed intruders stole the security DVR and $2,000 in cash. However, experts determined the damage to the home safe was a crude inside job, done with a fireplace poker to destroy video evidence, the contract and the psychological trigger. In 2013, a breakthrough occurred. Prosecutors discovered a 14-page handwritten contract in the home. In it, Julene pledged absolute obedience to Jeremy. It painted a dark picture of a relationship defined by coercive control and public humiliation. The ultimate trigger was found in her computer history. 11 hours before the murder, someone, presumably Julene, searched for the obituary of her biological father, a man who had abused her as a child. Investigators believe the news of her original abuser's death acted as a psychological catalyst. Having seen one monster die, she decided to end the reign of the one currently controlling her. The evidence was insurmountable. From the lack of blood on her clothing to the staged warning shots captured during the 911 call, it was clear Julene had executed Jeremy while he slept and spent hours meticulously staging the scene. In 2017, Julene Simco was found guilty and sentenced to 28 years in prison. She remains incarcerated to this day. Psychological perspective, an analysis of reactive violence. Analyzing this case through a psychological lens reveals a complex intersection of long-term oppression, past trauma, and current crisis. This is a classic example of reactive violence. Re-traumatization. Having been abused by her father, Julene was susceptible to a repetition compulsion, falling into a relationship with another controlling, authoritarian figure. Finding her father's obituary served as a psychological breaking point. It likely sparked the realization that she could finally be free from all her abusers. The cycle of control. The obedience contract confirms Jeremy's use of coercive control. For Julene, the house was not a home but a psychological prison. Under prolonged entrapment, a victim's mindset can shift from learned helplessness to extreme aggressive reaction. Instrumental aggression. The timing of the bank loan rejection and the focus on insurance money suggests her actions weren't just emotional, they were instrumental. She viewed Jeremy's death as both an emotional escape and a financial solution. Dissociative performance. Her 911 call was a masterclass in performance. This suggests dissociation, where the perpetrator mentally adopts the role of the victim so thoroughly that they almost believe their own lie. Sociopathic traits. The coldness with which she tampered with evidence and ousted Jeremy's family after the murder points to antisocial traits. For Julene, the relief of freedom outweighed any sense of remorse. The Jeremy Simco case leaves us with profound and chilling lessons. First, it teaches us that no matter how high we build our walls, how advanced our cameras are, or how many guard dogs we chain in our yards, the most dangerous enemy is often the one standing right beside us. Technology can stop a stranger, but it is powerless against the hatred and oppression that grows within the walls of a home. Second, we see the devastating time bomb effect of psychological abuse. When Jeremy's need for absolute control met Julene's unhealed trauma, it created a lethal explosion. It serves as a stark reminder that when respect and empathy vanish from a relationship, the results can be catastrophic. Finally, this case reaffirms the old adage, there is no such thing as a perfect crime. Julene meticulously staged the scene and destroyed evidence, but the very digital fortress she helped build, the alarm panel, logs, became the silent witness that exposed her lies. No matter how thick the mist, the truth eventually finds its way into the light. What lessons do you take away from this tragic story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next True Crime Breakdown.